Okay, so hello, welcome to this episode of Sapphic Sentiments. I'm Rachel and I'm here with Kiarra, and we are
Hi.
interviewing Ella Valentine, who is the future Program Director of WMUC at UMD.
That's
So,
true.
Ella, if you just want to take a moment to introduce yourself, talk about your sexuality, talk about any other pertinent information you want to add, you can totally go ahead right now.
So my name is Ella Valentine. I use they, she pronouns. And yeah, I identify as a lesbian. I have probably for oof, 6 to 7 years now. I identified as bisexual before I realized that I was ultimately as lesbian, and both of those identities are super valid, and that is a natural stepping stone, I believe. Um, yeah, I don't have much to say other than I'm really, really passionate about film and media and representation. I come from a very rural area. I come from Western Maryland, and I come from a place that is not very accepting. I got bullied heavily in high school, for my sexuality, for my identity, and I actually did start my county's first gender and sexuality alliance at my first high school. Um, so yeah.
Wow, that is super cool. Thank you for introducing yourself. This is probably going to take like 30 minutes. We're going to start with just some questions. So, first, how do you think the patriarchy specifically has affected your sexuality journey?
Mm. I think it's interesting because for me the patriarchy goes very hand in hand with like social norms
Yes.
about, sexuality and everything. And so I as a kid, um I would say that I very much did feel pressure to be attracted to men and to have a boyfriend. And I would say that that even goes as far as like my family members.
Yeah.
Um, I came out to my grandmother when I was probably about 16 in mid high school because I had gone to homecoming with my first girlfriend.
Oh,
I showed her the pictures. And she was not very accepting. And she's better now, but it is still under the impression that it's okay that you like girls now as long as you settle down with a man eventually. And I would
oh,
say that that is incredibly heavily influenced by the patriarchy and is, I think, a problem that a lot of lesbians face is that it's kind of viewed as a phase. It's viewed as something that's okay to have fun with, but eventually you will come around to liking men and to settling down with a man and having children and, you know, all of that. And so I'd say that the patriarchy definitely impacts those kinds of social norms.
definitely. I just have an add-on question. Are you familiar with the term compulsory heterosexuality? Have you
Combat.
struggled with that, or has that
Um,
been a part of your journey?
I think yes. Especially when I was kind of starting out.
Yeah.
Um, but even then, you question. Um, and I mean, this is a little bit more personal, but I've had therapists ask me. So my parents divorced when I was 2. Well, they separated when I was 2. They divorced a little bit later. And my relationship with my father has been a little rough, at times. And I've had multiple therapists ask me, do you think that's the reason you're not attracted to men? Which, first of all, ew, icky. No.
Yeah.
But that kind of compet is I think definitely an issue. Um Specifically coming from where I come from, as in a place that is not very accepting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Do you want to move on to the next question? Do you have anything you want to add, Kiara?
No, I was actually going to bring up Compet too, because that's
Okay.
exactly what it sounded like. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Ella, are you good if we move on to the next question?
I'm all
Awesome.
good.
So their next one is going to be how has lesbian media made you feel either empowered or ashamed or a bit of both, depending on the media?
That's a great question. I think lesbian media, it has helped me be much more comfortable, I think, growing up. Um, I didn't have a whole lot of role models in my day-to-day life, and so I see them in media. Um, I I have this terrible hipster complex when it comes to Chapel Roan because I was listening to Chapel Roan the fall after Midwest Princess came out,
Oh,
as in before Coachella,
Yeah,
yeah.
way
before
before.
she got popular. And so I got tickets to see her for $40.
That's that's
Um,
crazy.
That's a wild pull.
and it's
Yeah.
like a wild pull. It's like one of my like biggest things is like I make the joke like, oh, I was listening to Chappell Roan before she was gay. But but I think that kind of positive representation, even though people hate on her for all sorts of things, but like a open and honest depiction of, lesbian sexuality specifically is so lovely and I think so empowering. When it comes to kind of older things, it depends because this isn't necessarily related to just lesbianism,
Yeah.
but like I'm a Rocky Horror Picture Show lover. And there are a lot of people who are not because of its treatment of queerness, um, and how they're like, no, it's actually harmful to the community. I would argue the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Um, but I know like that's kind of a thing. Like there's a lot going on there. But I think that even media that is flawed is still incredibly empowering, especially as like a
Definitely.
teenager. Like, yes, it has its flaws. But watching it when I was like 16 was like game changer because it's just an open depiction of people being free. I think in ways that it has kind of harmed, you see high profile lesbians, Ellen DeGeneres, um,
Yeah.
and I was compared to her a lot
Oh,
because when you grow up in a place that doesn't really know what a lesbian is, they use the one that they know, which is Ellen DeGeneres. And I am an Ellen DeGeneres hater,
yeah.
um, as are many. Um, but I still think that I am of the belief that not necessarily any representation is good representation, but any representation can be affirming to just know that it exists. Um,
Definitely.
and that it's not like crazy and weird and bad. Um, yeah.
No, that's like a great point. I feel like it's important to like kind of have a diversity of types of representation in media, which kind of leads into our next question, which is like, what is your like ideal concept or like ideal ideas for how you think just like lesbian and like sapphic individuals should be represented in the media?
I think lesbians and sapphic individuals should be represented as people.
Yeah.
We are not stereotypes. A lot of like, as much as I love a butch femme relationship, like, hell, I'm kind of in one right now. Like, but the archetypes of lesbians can be so limited. Um, when I cut my hair for the first time, I got a pixie cut when I was 16 and I had wanted it for years before. And I had had people tell me, no, don't cut your hair short. You'll look like a dyke.
Oh.
And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it is a slur. It is also my slur. Um,
Nothing wrong.
but, that kind of like that kind of representation that like lesbians can only be like stone butch or like really, really high femme is harmful because there are lesbians that are like that. I know some and they're lovely, but that's not all lesbians. And I think I watched She-Ra when I was in middle school.
Yes.
And as much as it's like, it's a silly show for kids, it was also like really nice in the ways that it portrays lesbians as people who can be fallible and can make mistakes. And like lesbian relationships can be beautiful and loving, and they can be the most toxic things you've ever seen in their life, and they can be anything in between.
For
Lesbians
sure.
can be lovely, lesbians can be mean. Like it kind of like I think representation is most important when it is an aspect of somebody's character, but it's not their entire thing. Like, because lesbians shouldn't be treated as lesbians, they should be treated as people, first
Yeah.
and foremost, in representation. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much my take. So yeah, stereotypes can be fun. They can be fun to poke fun at, but at the end of the day, the fact that I love women is not like the only thing about me.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I
I
think
think
we'll,
that's
oh, go ahead.
no, you're good.
Okay, I think we'll definitely talk a bit more about like stereotypes and stuff when you talk about like the film section of this
Yeah, cool.
episode. Like we talk a little bit about, well, I listed some films that we could talk about. One of the main ones that I thought about when you mentioned stereotypes is But I'm a Cheerleader. I don't know if you've seen that
Yeah.
one,
I
but
it's been
yeah.
years since I've seen
Hmm.
it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah. So our next one is going to be what impact did the abundance of heterosexual relationships in media paired with the lack of sapphic relationships have in your journey to realizing you are queer? It's a
I
lot,
think
I
it,
know.
no, I think it really ultimately just made it take longer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, because I think if I had grown up seeing lesbian and sapphic relationships in media, it would have been a lot easier for me to realize
Yeah.
that I was queer because it goes back to that thing of compet. Like, if
Mhm.
heterosexual relationships are all you see around you and all you see in media, you're not going to realize I didn't know that people could be gay until I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which is
think
funny
that's a
because
very,
we
yeah.
have family friends that are lesbians, and I just
Oh.
didn't know.
Hmm.
Um, like I didn't know that that was just a thing that you could do. And there's a story that my mom tells about like me and her and my grandma when I was like 4 years old went to Rehoboth Beach in the middle of summer and we got caught up in a pride parade. And I was so excited because I loved rainbows. Because I was like a 4 year old. I love
Yeah.
rainbows. And all of these women are so pretty and they're all smiling at me and they're all dancing and having a great time. And I think I told my grandma, I was like, I want to be just like them when I grow up. And she went, "No, honey." Um, not in a hateful way, just in
Yeah.
my grandmother is a Southern Baptist way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and like I think representation like that and being clear about representation because when I was a kid, I grew up sometimes in Baltimore, sometimes in Frostburg. And I remember going to Hunfest a lot when I was a kid,
Hmm.
in Baltimore, and I don't know exactly how familiar anybody is with Hunfest. It's essentially like it's a Baltimore kind of tradition, celebration. There's a lot of drag queens. It's heavily like influenced by the works of John Waters, and obviously his work with Divine and all sorts of things. And so essentially Hunfest is there's this big festival and part of that festival is that there's just a lot of drag queens and they all are dancing. And I was like 5 years old dancing with the drag queens. And I was just like, these are the prettiest ladies I've ever seen in my life.
So real.
And I had no conception of what a drag queen was at all. Um, and so I think representation and clear representation in ways that are accessible for children is also really important. Um, just explaining things without bias, like and that's what I like about like a lot of the children's books that are getting banned and stuff like that is like, you know, this is a boy and this is a girl, and they can like each other a lot. And then this is a girl and this is a girl, and they can also like each other a lot. And just non-biased, just like telling people what the facts are.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know things
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we wanted to talk a little bit about like intersectionality and feminism. We don't really have a clear question for this one, but we have talked a lot about intersectionality and feminism in our class, which is Psychology of Women. And we just wanted to know like what your thoughts are maybe on the topic of like intersectionality when it comes to representation, if you're familiar with the term.
Yeah.
And maybe just like how media can be improved to be a bit more like intersectional or how you think media has done a good job of that?
Yeah, I think it's like the thing about sexuality and gender is that they are inherently linked.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my gender,
Yeah.
I identify as non-binary. I like to describe myself as a non-practicing woman.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
like
I like that a
I
lot.
like a
like that
non-practicing
too.
Catholic. I'm a woman on Christmas and Easter. And I'm a woman when my grandmother is involved. But like I was raised a woman, I am culturally a woman.
Mhm.
Um, and I think my gender, being as it is very inherently tied to my lesbian identity. Um, and I mean, the white stripe on the lesbian flag stands for gender nonconformity. That is,
Yeah.
Yes.
um, and I think nonconformity can be defined in a lot of different ways. Um, but for me, it is very intrinsically linked to my sexuality. In terms of media, I think it goes back to that portrayal of just like lesbians as people. People are intersectional, and people can have multiple identities and be complicated and nuanced. And so portraying lesbians of different, of different backgrounds, of different identities, I think is just really important. But yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think one of the main things is just like casting different people
Yeah.
that aren't like there's a big conversation right now about whether straight actors should play gay roles, and honestly I don't have much of an opinion on that, but I do think it's important to like cast a variety of queer actors when it's like coming to queer roles, especially like if it's more
I,
like integral to the character you can
yeah,
feel.
I grew up doing theater as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember very specifically, there's the question of whether straight actors can play gay roles. And then there's also, can gay actors play straight roles?
Yeah.
And I remember being told when I was in like mid high school that I'm just not a believable romantic lead. Um,
Mhm.
when it comes to being like the ingenue or like the like pairing with a man. Um,
Mhm.
I was just told that it's not believable just because of how I am. Um,
Mhm.
and like I think that's a question that is very nuanced. I personally don't really have a problem with straight actors playing gay roles as long as they are written well and they are
Yeah.
Yeah.
acted well.
Yeah.
Yes.
The production also casts queer actors.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Um, my thing with that is as long as there are queer people in the production team, as long as queer people are actually behind
Yeah.
the project itself, so they're writing it, they're producing it, that's what matters. Because who tells the story, like in the terms of acting, isn't as important as are the people who are writing and telling the story in the writing room, like
yeah,
do they know
Yeah.
what they're talking about? Have they lived this experience? Rachel, I love what you said about casting people just like varieties, like because I
Yeah.
feel like you stick to very like I feel like a lot of queer representation is white
yes.
and
Yeah.
white American when queer people exist in all cultures in
Queer
all
people exist
countries. Like we're
everywhere.
not
Yeah.
like only
Queer
in America
people
or only in English. We're
Yes.
everywhere. We
people
always
exist
have been.
everywhere. Queer people have
Yeah,
existed everywhere.
Yes.
always, forever, and they
I
always will.
I'm I'm an archaeology major,
Yes.
Ooh,
specifically in
this is
like
great.
cultural
Yeah,
anthropology. Queer people have always existed and they will
yeah.
always exist and they will always be everywhere and of different races, of different origins, of different, types of identity. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think that that is so important is to
Yeah.
acknowledge that like I am kind of your typical, oh, it's a white lesbian who wears a flannel all the time. Um, and that's
We've all
fine.
been there. That's
And that's fine.
Right.
And we love it.
yeah,
But there are so many other kinds of lesbians.
yeah. And it's super important for moving forward too, because if
Yes.
all other cultures and all other people see as white people as queer, they might not like cultures that do need that push forward into queer positive, they might not have that like representation. You know what I mean? Like media influences our reality. So if we
Yeah.
cast different cultures as queer people, everyone like it helps push the
Yeah,
world in general forward. Does
Yeah,
that make
very much
sense?
so. Yeah.
definitely.
I think
I
it's important.
think now would be like a good time, unless you have something more you want to add. No, okay. I think now would be a good time to move on to talking about like films. So I have a list. I'm just going to read it out. And if there's like one that you feel really passionate about in terms of talking about like representation or like good representation, bad representation, any kind of representation, you can just like stop me and be like, hey, I want to talk about this one. So we had a couple. We have Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know if you've seen that. There's Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Bottoms, Shiva Baby, Carol, Jennifer's Body, But I'm a Cheerleader, like I mentioned before. There's Crush, the one with like Rowan Blanchard from Girl Meets World. There's Love Lies Bleeding, which is a newer one. There's My First Summer, and there's Pariah.
I love Love Lies Bleeding. So I have seen a couple of those.
Yeah.
I
And
remember
you can talk about any.
I watched Pariah very young,
Yeah.
and most of it went over way over my head.
Hmm.
Um, I'll talk about Love Lies Bleeding. Because this is a movie, me when I'm going on my Letterboxd. Um,
So valid.
this
Do what you need to.
this is a movie that like I saw for the first time in theaters. Which first of all, it was a miracle that it even came to our theater.
Hmm.
Um, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It was in our theater for a total, like, so there's one movie theater in my county. It
Hmm.
was in our theater for a total of 1 week.
Wow.
Um, because it just wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
And I watched it with my best friend, who is a bisexual woman, and her boyfriend. Um,
Wow.
and I watched it 2 weeks after I watched Drive Away Dolls for the first time.
Oh, that's another good one.
I also saw it in theaters.
Hmm.
Love Lies Bleeding. I love this movie. It is not a perfect movie. I think its treatment of um of its characters is done with a lot of love. Um and it's also done in a way that is very unique to more of a rural experience. Um I think it like it's been a little bit since I've seen it, but I think like the ways that it kind of portrays it does a really great job of lesbians can be bad. They can be toxic. Like they can be toxic, they can have flaws. But also just the way everything is presented is like I don't know, it's just very affirming to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Um and like man, I should rewatch it. Um it's probably been about a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like I think that a lot of the scenes between Kristen Stewart's character and Katie O'Brien, who's I can't remember her character's name, so I'm just going
Yeah.
to refer to them as the actor names.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the scenes between them are very, very well done.
Yeah.
Um, they're well done in the amount of sexuality that is there. They're both little freaks. Um, and as a little freak, um, like I think the it's when Lou starts making her like omelets, I think.
Hmm.
Um, it also is kind of like a touch into the domestic that you don't expect.
Yeah.
That I think is very well done. Um, and then of course it gets more fantastical and more fanciful. Um, I love that movie. I think it is a very I think it's fun. Drive Away Dolls is also it's also a movie that I love. Um, I am not the hugest fan of the fact that there were not queer people behind it.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, so Drive Away Dolls, Margaret Qualley is, to my knowledge, not queer,
Yeah.
No, she's not.
Yeah, she's
and
not.
has made her entire career really playing lesbians, which
Oh,
feels a little yucky.
Yeah, yeah,
I think she does it well.
yeah.
yeah, but it's
I
like,
also think that there could definitely have been actual lesbian and sapphic voices behind that film that would have
Mhm.
made it a much better film.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
I like it for like the little like romp it is.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it could have been much better done. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly if Rose Glass is queer, the director of Love Lies Bleeding.
Hmm.
Um, however, I think from viewing these films, one of them feels like a lot more care and love and knowledge was put into it than the other, and I think they're both enjoyable movies. Um, I think Love Lies Bleeding does a really great job of centering women
Yeah.
in a way that Drive Away Dolls doesn't.
Yeah.
Because in Drive Away Dolls, both main characters are lesbians, and yet the entire movie is almost through a male gaze and it feels like the lesbians are not the most important part of the movie
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
characters or as like plot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm just kind of rambling. I like both of them. I think they're good movies. I think a
Yeah.
lot of the movies on that list are absolutely amazing. My girlfriend is really, really, really into Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Um, and I haven't watched it in forever, but yeah, I think TLDR representation for me needs to be done with love and care and knowledge that comes from firsthand experience
Definitely.
and is something that needs to show duality and the entire range that people have because people contain multitudes and um, so do lesbians because lesbians are people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my spiel.
Yeah, I like what you said about like having multitudes of like personality and like variety and character, especially because I feel like when it comes to being authentic has to be done with like that same like giving people like an actual personality instead of just being like, hey, this is a lesbian and we're gonna show them being a
The lesbian,
lesbian.
okay, and what else?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That's great. Well, I think we have everything that we need. I think we're good to wrap up if you'd like. But if there's anything else you'd like to share, any last minute thoughts, we would love to hear them. No?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.